Hello, good evening and welcome. A bit of a delayed kickoff for this one. And we're here, we're back, we're live to another show, 104 of Arsenal Above All. I've got Brian making his first appearance of the season. This is like Andrea Berta setting squad building. You know, he's waiting for his chance and he's back in. He's got his chance back in the team. Good to see you, Brian. And yeah, it's been another great week for Gooner, isn't it? You know, a big win. Homecoming of a you know, long loss, maybe not long loss, but homecoming of a superstar who hopefully will push us over the line, and obviously a big Vic scoring two and silencing a few doubters within the fan base and obviously the rivals as well. We've got that to talk about. We've got the Champions League draw, which has just happened a couple of hours ago, to talk about as well. And obviously transfers, the transfer deadline is around the corner. So action-packed stuff. Before we've got a small matter of a little visit to the champions on Sunday afternoon. So not that much to get on with, you know. But before we do so, let's get on with it. Let's go. Good evening and welcome to the show. Brian, how you doing, man? It's been a long time since we last had a chat. Summer holidays and everything, you know, you've just come back, you know, from a nice trip. How you doing? It's great to see you.
Yeah, I'm good, Mike. I'm good. I'm sorry, I've been a bit hamstrung, basically. So I've not being able to obviously attend a couple of shows you've asked me to, but I'm back. Yeah, I'm back to full fitness.
We'll see. We'll give you 60 minutes before we get the subs on for you. But no, great to see you. Great to have you back. Obviously, we hope it's going to be a massive season for the club. The way we've been moving, obviously, off the field this summer, and obviously we've started the season pretty well. Obviously, with a 5-0 win against the Championship champions, weren't they? Leeds United last weekend. Everything kind of went to plan, you know, in terms of the scoreline, if you look at that. But obviously, you look deeper into it, and we've had obviously two big injuries. Bukayo Saka, it's turned out that he's going to be out for not, you know, his grade 1 hamstring that he's got on the left one. He had the surgery on the right hamstring. And it's kind of up in the air about Odegaard. There's a chance that he could play at the weekend in his 200th game. So it's a shame that he had to come off so early, Brian. But what was your thoughts just on that performance? Obviously, you know, encapsulate everything on how, you know, people were talking about the lineup and everything. And would Miles come back into the side after, you know, Calafiori's performance at Old Trafford? And obviously Victor Gyökeres as well. Obviously there were rumours, obviously maybe Havertz maybe coming in, but then obviously it broke earlier in the week that he had his injury. But what was your thoughts on just how we opened up our home sort of campaign, and hopefully which will hopefully be a successful one, because obviously it's at home where we, if you round it up, probably in terms of the points dropped, we dropped a hell of a lot at home, didn't we, with the low blocks that we faced. But what was your thoughts just generally on the performance and how we moved on from there?
Yeah, I think that we felt our way into the match, to be honest with you. And I think as an opening game of the season at home, with certain new signings that started as well, I think I wasn't, I was never going to be expecting us to go and start slamming 3, 4, and 5s in the first half. In that sense, I think it was going to be something that we had to feel our way through it. Leeds actually set themselves up to, I suppose, to play a little bit on the counter. They were a bit more on the front foot as well. They came out to try and play as well. Yeah. So, we slowly got into the game, and that was I didn't mind that so much, because you could actually feel it coming anyway. I don't think it was ever going to be. It wasn't going to be one of those frustrating afternoons in that sense. I think it was it was strictly going to be a bit of a matter of time. And when it did, and when it came, then you can see obviously players have started to be a little bit more at ease with themselves as well. Yeah. When you look in contrast against Manchester United, what you've got to think about in that game, if it's an away game at Old Trafford, first game of the season, new players involved. This time it's a home game, 60,000 people, the introduction of a certain new number 10. The atmosphere was going to be great. So it was always going to be that sort of, let's feel our way into it, feel our way into the game, and then, take the chances when they came. And obviously, the usual suspects came up, obviously, with the set pieces to kind of open it up. So, yeah, I was I was pleased enough. We did what we had to do against a newly promoted side, and that was the importance there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was great that it was Timber. Obviously, he came, into the side, didn't he? Instead of Ben White, who again obviously picked up an injury. We're not really sure what the issue is there, what the duration is going to be. So again, it's good that we're in this position where we've had these injuries, setbacks already, but we've got players on the bench and who can come in, and the level, hasn't dropped. In terms of the quality that people are producing on the pitch. But, we'll get into that a little bit more. But, I thought, I agree with you. I thought, a tricky opening game, against the side that did kind of have a low block, even though they did try to, open us up on the which was kind of what we expected. I think Daniel Farke, even if he wanted to play a low block, he's not in his nature to kind of do that. And fair play to Leeds, they did come out. I think Daniel James had a couple of good runs against Calafiori, which is always the case, really, because he's so adventurous, from that left back side. But yeah, it was kind of a shame, obviously, what happened to Odegaard. But there's been a few questions about it, because obviously Ethan came on, and kind of, for me, the tempo of the game shifted, especially the way we were moving the ball a lot more quicker in the middle, especially from Zubimendi. He was getting the ball and, firing a lot more passes vertically to Ethan, who was kind of staying up a little bit higher. I think what we saw in the first half, what was a bit frustrating for me, was Odegaard was still dropping back quite deep to pick up the ball, picking up the ball sometimes alongside Zubimendi. And there was one instance where I think we had a corner, and it went back to Odegaard, and he could have swung it in, but instead he kind of turned and played it back, and then you heard a big groan from the crowd. It was really audible. It was like, just get the ball forward. And I have to say that I thought we played a lot more, with a lot more speed. There was a lot more tempo in our play when he came off. I don't know whether they say that captains are, these days are more a reflection of the manager, but I think it's almost like he's got that sort of side of him where he's really cautious and he doesn't want to really, let things go too much. What was your thoughts just on his performance and just how we changed, or did you see anything change, when he came off, in terms of how we moved the ball about a bit?
Yeah, I was actually actually shouting at the TV, Mike, when in that particular scenario you just mentioned. I was literally shouting at the TV, and I just felt, you're right. I think I know. Look, he's the captain of the side, and he's kind of trying to lead from the front, lead the example, and stuff like that. But ultimately, he's still got a job to do in that particular role, which he's been asked to play, in and around, floating around that kind of 10 role per se. And we don't necessarily need Martin Odegaard trying to. We've got now a Mendy that will be able to, up the tempo where we need to up the tempo from deep lines. Martin Odegaard is more effective in a final third. So, but the problem, as you quite rightly said, Mike, is that it's the speed, it's kind of the cautiousness at times. I don't know. You said, is it a reflection basically from your manager through to the captain? It's quite possibly, because if you're allowed to go out there and ultimately just to go and express yourself, then we would probably be seeing the Martin Odegaard we probably saw a couple of seasons that have got into double figures with goals and then assists.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I think he might have taken on the responsibility of the captaincy a little bit too much, which has ultimately then affected not just him, but actually in the team that moving forward in final thirds. So, look, it's going to be interesting because I personally speaking, with the weekend ahead, and I will speak about that a bit later on.
Yeah.
If he's got this little injury at this moment in time with the shoulder, I wouldn't start him. With the cover is effectively there now.
Yeah.
Let's see how we go into these particular games with the squad that we have now, that we can ultimately make those sorts of changes. So, and we're going to need Martin Odegaard for the longer part of the season. So if there's anything nagging with that shoulder, and if he ends up going down again, and it ends up then being prolonged, then I probably wouldn't take the risk, and then certainly wouldn't take the risk with an international break coming up as well. Anyway, so he can rest if he needs to. I know he's in the squad for Norway's squad as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
But hopefully the club may have a quiet word in the Norwegian FA's ear and say, look, I don't think he's necessarily up to scratch for playing. So. Let's see, but I think when Ethan, going along with Ethan, yes, much more progressive, and I didn't mind the mistakes that Ethan made because he did make one or two, but that's
because he was taking more risks, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he was trying to make things happen.
Yeah, probably. And you don't mind those risks in and around their final third.
Yeah, because you've got one of the best defensive midfielders behind in the world behind you to try and sweep up, and you've got one of the best sixes or left eights, whatever you want to call them, Declan Rice to get back, and then behind them you've got the what a lot of people say is the best defensive unit in Europe as well. So why not take a few risks? You've got those guys behind you.
Yeah, and it's ironic because at the end of the day, it was kind of his mistake led to Saka's goal.
Yeah.
Because he lost the ball, Zubimendi won it back. Timber put Saka through, and it's 2-0. But there's the progression. It was making things happen in that area, knowing that the fact that you've got the protection behind you that can pick up pieces as well when it breaks down, and then you're back on the front foot.
That creates transitions, right, and the opportunity for you to do that. So, I definitely thought we played a hell of a lot more quicker when he was off the pitch. It's going to be fascinating to see what he does if he's touch and go for Liverpool, and whether he trusts Ethan to play in that role, or does he put Eze in that situation, playing on a different maybe position on the right hand side rather than the left hand side. Does he recall Martinelli? He didn't give him any minutes at the weekend. And a lot of people are talking about him possibly leaving, maybe Trossard as well, maybe one of the two of them, maybe both. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of days. What is it, 3 days and a bit left of the window. But what do we do with what would you do about Saka with his injury? Another hamstring injury. Some people have read that when you have a bad hamstring injury, the other side kind of compensates for it, takes on a bit of the load, and that might have been what's happened. It's been classed as a grade 1. So it's not the 3, I think, which he had, which caused the surgery and everything. But isn't it great now that we're in a position that you've got the likes of Madueke, and and a 15-year-old kid who as your option. So again, I think what you were saying before about taking his time and bringing him back in. But what would you do in that regards? Would you just basically just not even consider him, until we've got Man City coming up, or in a month's time, just under a month's time? Is that what you kind of be penciling him in for? Especially, I think we've got the Champions League as well. I think just the week before that, I think it's going to probably be against Bayern Munich at home. Any concerns about Saka? Has he looked right for you since he's come back? In the games that you've seen pre-season and
no, to me, no. I think, dare I say it, that I think a lot of football is beginning to catch up with him.
Yeah.
To be honest, when you look at the fact, obviously, with the hamstring that went, that he was out for such a period of time, and now the other one has gone. Yes, granted, it's not as severe at this moment, but to me, it looks like there's a lot of football's caught up with Bukayo Saka at this moment, and I think he need the additions which have been put into the squad now allows the club to kind of nurse him back into a level of the injury and a level of sharpness, because ultimately he's going to have that competition to get back into the side, and that should be the driver for Bukayo Saka more than anything else. At the fact that he knows he's now got competition in front of him, and when you pick up an injury like that, there's a strong you're not automatically going to come back into the team, because effectively that's what we've done for the last 5 seasons probably with Bukayo Saka.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He doesn't have that worry. So the club doesn't have that worry so much now. It will be just on Bukayo himself and getting things, getting fit after injury, but also making sure that the fact that he's ready to play when we need him, need him back at his best. At the end of the day, we don't need a Bukayo Saka that we've kind of had, or we've seen through. Yes, granted, pre-season is pre-season, but certainly the first couple of games, of the season so far, it just looks, you want him to go past people, and it doesn't look like he wants to go past people. I don't know if that is just how teams have been set up against him, but to be honest with you, Bukayo Saka is more useful for us when he's playing slightly inside. He's not that touchline winger like what Max Dowden is like at this moment in time, where he will hog a touchline and take the defender on. Bukayo's not really like that. Playing that kind of inside channel is probably where he's most effective for us. Hence, again, where the goal basically come from. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Because this is what this whole, the investment in the squad over the summer, this is what it's all boiled down to. Will Arteta trust himself, with the players that we've brought in, Madueke, obviously Max Dowman, whoever else we may bring in within the next couple of days? Or does he do what, he's done in the past? Does he just kind of chuck him straight back in, as soon as he's kind of near, approaching, decent fitness, this, I think that situation and the Champions League draws, which we'll talk about in a bit, and even the Port Vale game that we've got away. I think, did we play Preston last season away in the League Cup? Yeah. And he was on the bench. Saka was on the bench, and he brought him on. I think we were winning 2 or 3-0 at the time, and he brings him on. It's like, well, you don't need to bring him on. You don't. Yeah. He shouldn't have travelled. I don't. I don't get it. So, he needs to really sort of trust the squad and and make sure he comes back firing, because I do think he came back a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 weeks early because of the Real Madrid situation, and obviously he delivered in especially in the second leg. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, how he manages the squad. But before we go on to a big addition to the squad, let's talk about this man. Gyökeres had so much flack, going his way, so much nonsense being spoke about him by rival fans and supposed Arsenal fans. Apparently, taking the mick out of him about the amount of touches he did at Old Trafford, and more hair flicks than touches and nonsense like that. So happy that he scored that goal when he made that run. You just urging him on, and you can see that the players really want him to do well. They're very savvy, these players these days. They see social media. They see all the stuff on Instagram. A lot of them are active on there. But you saw when he scored that goal, the light on his face, and the light on this couple of shots that you can see of other players as well, and they're smiling. And even when he scored the penalty, Declan Rice, the way he approaches him and hugs him, you can see they just really want this guy to succeed, because they obviously know if he succeeds, there's a bloody good chance that we succeed as a club, it's just great to see that he still seems a little bit wide-eyed, when he's talking about the club and everything like that and where he is. But I just want the guy to score as many goals, because I wanted him to come for so long. But what's your thoughts on just that goal in the second half? The penalty, which was probably the hardest hit penalty I think I've ever seen. Ridiculous power, absolutely ridiculous power. And he actually had the balls to take the penalty, unlike a certain individual last night who took the 10th penalty in a penalty shootout against the League Two side, effectively aside from Division 3. But let's not go into that. We're talking about players with minerals. But what's your thoughts on just how he took those goals, and just his performance?
Yeah, look, I'm pleased for him, and I think you have to take the Manchester United game basically in isolation as a team, not just as Victor Gyökeres, in that the team didn't arguably play well, won the game. I'm not too sure what we were kind of expecting for him on that game, particularly when we didn't play well. Leeds was an ideal game for him to kind of get that to, and we've got to realise is obviously he's joined the group slightly later as well, so he's not going to be entirely up to speed, should we say. And I think the game against Leeds was kind of perfect in that sense. When he snatched at the opportunity earlier on in the game. Look, the boy wants to, he wants to win. He's an intelligent boy as well. At the end of the day, he understands the pressure basically that he's going to be under there at the end of the day, but he also believes in his own ability, and you can see he works hard, and he's going to work hard for himself and for the club at the end of the day. And he will want to ultimately, look at his journey at the end of the day. And if his journey ends up winning a Premier League title or a Champions League or even an FA Cup at this moment in time, okay, for him, if he's a part of that, he knows he's done, all that hard work he's effectively has put in is been, it's been worthwhile at the end of the day. But look, it's not, as I said, it's not a daft kid. He knows what's around him at the end of the day. And the opportunity that has been given to him as well. And that opportunity is to lead a line, demonstrate and show people exactly why we bought him.
Yeah.
And ultimately, will it make that difference? The penalty dispatch was, but the boy, it's 20 out of 29 penalties. He scored 28.
Yeah.
You can see that that penalty just told the story in itself. And there is, look, ultimately, there was rumblings that I was kind of hearing about that, Bukayo Saka is, issues regarding the being the penalty taker, and then giving it to Gorka. You have your centre forward taking your penalties. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's simple as it gets. Your centre forward takes your penalties. Okay, that's their bread and butter. That's what we win. Sometimes we'll win football matches from. Okay, when you look at it, who would have taken the penalty basically when we played Madrid if Gorka was with us then?
Yeah. Goes without saying, Gorka, doesn't it? Yeah.
So look, there's no question, where it lies with where we've spent 60 odd million pounds, where our responsibilities and the responsibilities are going to go to moving forward. But yeah, look, I think what they've done and what I think Berta has got to take some credit in there is his understanding of what the market and the understanding of the individual players as well. As you said, there's a certain individual that where club was haggling over another probably £10 million for a 21-year-old actually, and we're seeing what's kind of happening at the moment.
Didn't look like he wanted to be there yesterday.
Yeah.
In that game, but
yeah,
we haven't got to worry about it now. They've got him, and we've got Big Vic, and we've also got another big man, and that's Eberechi Eze. I don't think there's been a signing that has kind of, I think, has united the fan base that I've ever seen. Maybe Aubameyang, maybe because obviously he was a genuine sort of, prolific, proper striker. Maybe Declan Rice as well, even though there's still some people that are a bit wary of him, saying that he's technically not right up there. But when the first sort of inklings came out that we could get, as a back to Arsenal, it was like, oh my God, this is the dream. And then obviously when it turned out that there's a chance that you could go to top Spurs, who's that? When there's a chance that we can go there, then it was like, oh, we can't even go there. And then obviously it dragged on. But the moment sort of Ornstein dropped the, his communication and everyone went crazy. I don't think I've smiled staring at my phone, for a long time. Obviously looking at my pictures of my kids and what have you. But I was watching everything. I was looking at the timelines, looking at Sky Sports News, and I was just smiling. And then I was looking at all the content of the top Spur fans, having meltdowns. I was smiling even more, laughing. And yeah, I've been away. I've been away for the family for a couple of days, and not really had a chance to take in all the content and everything. And I've watched all the content, the video, the interview with Ian Wright and what have you. And yeah, man, I think it's a good chance that this guy is probably going to be, he's my favourite Arsenal player already. He hasn't even kicked the ball for us. I said that to you. He's not kicked the ball for us, man, and I think he's my favourite Arsenal fan already. Just the way he's exuding the joy, and you can see in his eyes that he realises the opportunity he's got. He's 27 years old. He's been through it, obviously, after getting released and then got, playing, working his way back up, at Reading, and then obviously going up to QPR and then Palace and what we did there. And yeah, he was always a player that, I think we've had conversations before, whenever we've come up against him, you're always like, oh, yeah, he's dangerous. And, he's going to do something against us. And he's played well against us a few times, scored against us a couple of times as well. What's your thoughts, man? I mean, just, feel free to go as long as you want, man, because I mean, what's your thoughts on the signing? What does it mean to the squad? Is this the final piece? Do you think there's another maybe role that we need to maybe fill out? People talk about left wing, but what's your thoughts on just what his arrival will do for the squad, because it's going to bleed into the Champions League as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. A lot of people are saying Champions League, it's a tough draw, but I'm looking at it thinking the squad that if I'm looking at that draw with the squad that we had last season, I'll be worried.
Yeah,
I'm not worried.
Yeah.
I'm not worried at all about that draw. I'm not. They're worried about us. I'm not worried about those teams at all because of the squad that we've got. But what's your thoughts on Eze and just the whole announcement, everything, and how he's been received?
Well, you probably know anyway. I think I was depressed for I didn't get much sleep for about 2 weeks when I was hearing that he could go down the road. And I'm literally saying I lost sleep over it. I thought, how could we let this happen, basically? And then when even when the fact is that nothing was signed and it was going on and on and on, and I still thought he can't be going. And then look, if the fortune came through via the Havertz injury, okay, well, so be it. But really, it shouldn't have taken that as a guideline for us to go. We'd been talking to him anyway at the beginning of the summer anyway, so I'm not too sure why we kind of divided. I don't know if we were just playing with the people down the road or not, or what. But arguably, look, as you quite rightly said, he's become a favourite of mine without even kicking a ball at this moment in time, and I think that is just generally because the quality he brings, that's the most important thing. I think he's going to give us an extra dimension. He's kind of going to give us that dimension, which kind of like, in some respects, like Robert Perez did. That kind of drift, which we probably haven't had at the club for quite a while, really. That slight difference, that drift, that drop of the shoulder, drops inside. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of that creativity, which is just slightly different. When you look at kind of the side 2002, 3, 4 side, when Robert Perez was in that side, the goals that he kind of scored, I'll always remember the one that he curled in at Liverpool. Came inside and That's Eze right there. That's what ultimately that kid can do. And that's what ultimately we actually probably we need something slightly different, and particularly coming from that left-hand side in. And if that's where he does kind of operate, should we say, we haven't had that. We haven't had that. Martinelli has not given us that. Trossard has given it in fits and starts, but we haven't had that. And that difference he will bring. And I think the exuberance he will bring to the team, because again, another one that's had to come through, the ranks of playing lower league football, being turned away, all of that type of stuff. He's a driver. He's going to drive us forward. Apparently, he spent an extra 2 hours of training, after sessions already. If that doesn't show his willingness, why he wants to be there and why he wants to win for the club and do everything he feasibly possibly can for us to win things, he is the ultimate shining example. I love the kid already at the end of the day, and it's just because of his ultimately just at the moment his personality. But when we see him on the pitch, we'll be just they'll be crying out for him, and songs. There'll be songs for him even more so on the terraces. So I can't wait. I really hope that he starts at the weekend. I really do hope.
We're gonna talk about that in a bit. Fingers crossed. Everyone gets through. Obviously, the next couple of days. Without any problems. Aldrin says, have they briefed about the injuries? I think the club released a statement about Kai about a few minutes ago, just saying that he's had to have a procedure on the advice of the medics, and hopefully he'll be back. Back soon. Again, they haven't mentioned anything about Odegaard really, but obviously we know with Saka he's had a grade 1 tear on his left hamstring. And Geeks Nick, who was on the show last time. Thanks very much, Big Mike. I hope you're happy and healthy. Please thanks, mate. Really appreciate and everyone watching. Let's say in terms of transfers, obviously the incomings have been amazing. The numbers, I don't think we've seen anything like it in our time. And we've now got a really top squad, really one of the best squads I think I can remember. Probably the strongest squad since 03-04, as you mentioned, and the likes of Eze. I think when we lost to Bayern Munich in the Champions League, when we lost them in the quarterfinals a few seasons ago, I think that some of the stuff that came out was that Arsenal needed someone in that final third with a bit of X factor, and I think that's what you're kind of touching on. It's taken us a while to get him, but he is that person who can carry the ball, beat low blocks, but he can also just smash one, from outside and do something off the cuff. And I think that we've missed that. You're right, we've missed that. In Arteta's sort of evolution of his team, and now we've got this guy here, and you back that up with Ethan and someone like Dowman as well, and Noni Madueke. All of a sudden, we've got attacking talent there that you kind of can just beat people for fun and play off the cuff and everything. And I think that's going to be the difference. One of the struggles that we had last season in making those low blocks. A couple of Nick, just makes you smile. Genuine fan that's joined the club. Yeah, every Gooner can identify with that. So excited to see him play. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is the mission. Yeah, absolutely right. I think people say obviously there's no excuses for Arteta now. But I think it's a context. People say if he doesn't win anything, if he doesn't win a trophy, he needs to go, or if he doesn't win the league, he needs to go. Well, what if you finish second on 96 points? Liverpool, do you sack him then? There's always context. If you finish 10, 13, what was it, 13 points, we finished behind them again this last season. If that happens again, then you have a different conversation.
Yeah.
So you've got to take things into context. But yeah, the hope is obviously that we win one of the majors or two. Or Neil would say, he's in the chat, he would say all four. So we know one of the trips is to Port Vale. So I expect the squad that we've built up, we should have enough to take care of them. And if we needed a reminder of how tricky it is to play against lower league opposition, we only got to watch what happened last night with the mighty Man United. But obviously today we had the big boy draw of the Champions League. And what's your thoughts on the lineup? Obviously we've got all the teams there, all the English teams, and obviously there's a particular team that's got quite a more easier draw than the rest, which is a bit strange.
Yeah,
but that's just how it lands. But what's your thoughts on just how that lines up? Because the way it starts is obviously we're going to be starting with Bayern Munich, but I just need to find out what the date is and everything. But I think it will be played as they are, because it's like home and away, home away, rather than sorting that out. But what's your thoughts on the draw, Brian? And you think this is going to be the year that we go one step further?
It's a tough draw, but as we've said regarding to the squad in itself, people are probably going to fear us just as much. Where usually we would look at a draw 2, 3, 4 seasons ago and looked at that draw and thought, "Oh, this is a bit dicey with this, with the squad that we had at those sorts of times." But yeah, people are going to be fearing us. I think it's good that we've that the likes of the Bayern game is at the Emirates as well, and the Madrid game as well. I wouldn't. There'd be tough asks away from home, but there's a capability. But we've also seen that we've failed in some kind of tough away Champions League games as well. So I'm glad to see those games at home, and they're going to be critical really, because Bruges is going to be a tough game away from home. To be fair, the way that they're playing at the moment, and obviously Inter's always generally kind of it's a tough game at the San Siro. but you look at the sort of the bottom. When you look at the sort of the Olympiacos, the Prague game, the Carrot game, and the Bilbao games, we should be picking up maximum points in all of those 4 games anyway. And then the
Yeah,
the Madrid the Madrid game and the Munich games are the ones you avoid defeat.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's good that we've got those two at home as well. I think that's going to play a part. Bayern, obviously, very good going forward, as we know who they've got up there. But I think defensively we can get at them. And Atletico Madrid, I think there's been they've had a busy summer, I think, and there's what hearing rumours a bit of pressure on Simeone as well. Maybe a bit of a fallout with him and Alvarez as well, possibly. And obviously, Inter have got a new manager. They haven't got Inzaghi there anymore. But yeah, we lost to them last year. We probably deserved to get a draw out of that. I think we created a lot of chances. We just didn't have anyone to finish. So this time around, we have. Hopefully, he'll be there. And I think in the Champions League, you get a little bit more space, which will help him as well. But you're right. I think the games on the other side of those top three, I think we should be looking at maximum. Club Brugge, I think they gave Villa a bit of a run around as well last season, I can remember as well. So, be tricky. But if we go there with the right attitude, I think we should have absolutely no problems getting through to the latter stages. It's just so you want to get through to the automatic, the top 8, don't you? And then leave the other nonsense like last year when City had to play Real Madrid in that sort of playoff round, which was insane. And then Nick's sort of saying what we are in due to the window. I think particularly in the CL, nobody will relish facing us. Also, I think predicting our formation, tactical approach. Yeah, will be difficult for the opposition. Yeah, this is like I was saying, key that this will prove how much Arteta trusts the squad now. With what he's got. Because I think the Bayern game comes before the City game. I think we've got Bayern, and then we've got City, or it's the other way around. So you're kind of, what do you do? Is he going to go strong in both, which you imagine he will do? But I'm sure there'll be maybe 1 or 2 bits of rotation. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward to that. I do like the format. I'm not just saying that because we got far last year, but I think it is a good way of doing it. I think sometimes playing 2 teams twice home and away, especially when you battered one of them, you kind of know what's going to happen at the second leg. But no, I'm confident that we're going to do well and get through to the latter stages in the top 8 again. That's basically what you got to aim for.
Well, I think Mike. I think what it does, this format and the way how it pans out actually does set you up for the knockout stages, because that's where the big games really will start to kick in the knockout phase anyway. So you're kind of battle hardened already through that group stage.
Yeah.
To be ready for knockout football, the expectations where the pressure is going to be is going to be ramped up. The pressure is enough to just try and get into the top 8 anyway.
Yeah,
automatic. And then trying to avoid kind of playoff situations and stuff like that. So the pressure's already there, but it sets you up if you get through that stage to actually, be able to try and see if you can navigate yourself through. Through the knockout stages. And that probably didn't pan out greatly for Liverpool last season, for argument's sake. But it was a new format. And it could be slightly different this time round. But it certainly made us a bit more, to get to a semi-final. It made us a lot more battle hardened to get that far.
Yeah.
I think we've got every chance again of going deep into the competition, taking into consideration the experiences that we had last season.
Yeah, and what we've added as well, 100%. And with a few days left, there's rumours that there's going to be maybe Kivior going out the door, and maybe getting Hinchapi from Leverkusen, possibly Martinelli going, maybe Trossard. So there could be 1 or 2 more bodies that are going to come through the door, and quality ones as well. So yeah, it's looking like we really are, getting everything prepared for an assault on not just the two big
On all
ones, but
fronts.
all fronts. Yeah, because if you've got that much in your weapons, I say, then you go to the likes of Port Vale and stuff like that, and you handle business. You go there with the right attitude, and you make sure you get deeper run as you can in that competition, and I think we will. But knowing us, we probably end up playing Liverpool again in the league because we always seem to run up against them or Newcastle, whatever. But looking ahead to Sunday, Bri, obviously, how are you feeling about that? Are you feeling confident going into that, or you saw the game on Monday night, and how they sort of chucked away a 2-goal lead against 10 men, and defensively they look really sort of shaky. But they'll turn up. They always turn up against us, and the game against Liverpool, I think, is the highest scoring game in Premier League history. I think it's either our game against them or our game against Tottenham. I think is the highest scoring game. But what's your thoughts on that? And would you think he'll trust maybe Ethan to start there, or do you think he'll try and get Odegaard back in?
I've got a feeling he will probably go with Odegaard. I think just experience more than anything else. I think that the changes, it will be not changes per se. It's kind of going to be on our left hand side actually going forward. Who actually starts there? Because I think Madueke, to be fair, he was much better on the right hand side. And I think with Kirkes as the left back there, we need to put him under a little bit of pressure.
Put it
to
on
stop
him,
those runs, to have something to think about going in the opposite direction. So it's going to be kind of, I think who will start on the left of the three if we play within that three, I think is the key one. And I don't know, does he have the confidence of possibly putting Martinelli there? Would he feel, why not just get Eze on the pitch and get him to do a job in there? That will be, but again, a lot of this could be obviously dictated in and around of obviously if Martin Odegaard is fit. There's a couple of dilemmas in there, but as in the game, look, we don't have anything to fear. We don't have anything to fear from. I know they went on and won the title, but I think we kind of. I think a lot of people say they went on and won the title last year. I think we ended up losing the title from the amount of draws that we had.
Yeah, it's crazy. Was it 14 draws?
Yeah. So I've said to you this before. I think it's beginning to show, but I think it's kind of demonstrated is that Liverpool are not as this massive force upon what people generally think that they are. To concede, Newcastle we know is a difficult place to go, but at the end of the day, as champions and you're 2-0 up in a game against 10 men, you wouldn't have seen a City side of 2, 3, 4 years ago go there and concede 2 against a side of 10 men. They would have made them suffer.
Yeah, we would kill the game.
Yeah, they would have made them suffer. So it shows to me is that they're not as this force upon what they think that they generally are at this moment. And they could turn up on Sunday and give us a hiding, but then again we could do exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So look, it's always a difficult game to call.
It's always a crazy one. Yeah.
And now when you look at how the two sides, the formations, the players in those particular positions, it could end up a game of chess for all we know.
Yeah.
And it could end up being a stale 0-0 or 1-1. Not many chances, but the chances that it took, were taken. It could be one of those games. I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if we see a massive goal fest. That's one thing. Not with our defence. their defence, a lot of that will be dependent upon how we are in transition when we get forward, and
Yeah,
how we make them pay. And that's where I say that's why an Eze should play.
yeah, yeah. If it's going to work out like that, yeah, 100%. I think Eze's got to start. Probably start him on the left hand side, but if Arteta's a bit, risk averse, he's going to probably want someone who maybe does a little bit of work there on, But as Neil said, Nick said earlier, you will play Eze up against their right back, makeshift right back. I don't know whether that's going to be Szoboszlai again
or Bradley.
And he struggled when he came on the other day against Newcastle. Picked up a quick yellow. And thanks again for your comment, mate. Even though I feel Eze can cause him a lot of problems. Yeah, he opens up space for others to got to play him. Yeah, I would play him. I would. I'm starting. He'd want to. He scored last season against them. I think. When they won the league, I think did they draw? I think they drew 1-1 or something like that. I think he did score the opening goal, and then I think they equalised Liverpool. I can't remember if they equalised if they drew 1, but he scored. Yeah, he scored. He's a big game player, so you can see him, waiting for to put on that shirt for the first time, and in front of the cameras and everything, and putting a performance on. And I think you're right. This is effectively a Champions League level game, isn't it? This is what you're going to be up against, and this is the type of game where you want a player like Eze, who's that X factor type player in the last third who can do something out of nothing and just get the opposition on the back foot. I think we have got someone like that who can put players on the back foot. That's Saka, but that's when he's full flowing, and then he kind of relies on Odegaard to kind of find him, let's say, in that instance, whereas Eze can kind of do that off his own back by just carrying the ball and whatever, and then slipping the ball through to somebody, a runner, hopefully, but like Gyökeres on the transition. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I think there'll be goals in it. I know you don't think there will be. I think there'll be goals in it. It's always goals in it. It's always crazy. And confident that we could go get a result. And if that's a draw, so be it. But as long as we don't, make a habit of getting too many draws. But as long as we don't, I don't think we'll lose, because I think we're in kind of better shape than they are. Just defensively, you can see that they conceded 4. And we haven't conceded any yet, so should be fascinating again and nail biting as usual. But let's see. It's interesting when they asked Eze what shirt he's looking forward to wearing first, and he said the white one, the guy knows fashion, isn't it? He knows what he's talking about. But fingers crossed, man. We finish off. This first start of the season, obviously your international break, and ridiculous international break, 3 games into the season. It's like I could never get my head around it. Just absolute nonsense. Just crazy. But yeah, got another one for Nick. Thanks, Nick. I think once there's a goal, teams will chase it. Yeah, and get punished. Both are capable of punishing the other. We will need to show composure in defence. And you said, draws, injuries, and Pogba cost us last year. That was. But if we can just turn half of those draws into wins this season, we just need someone who can turn the losses into draws and the draws into wins, and we'll be all right. And we've got someone up there, I think, that can make the difference as long as he's fed. You've got to think the goals that Gyökeres scored yesterday. Not yesterday, Saturday. One he did off his own back, really. I know it was a good kind of ball into space from Calafiori, but it was kind of off his own back in the way he scored that goal, and the other one was a penalty. So we're still not giving him free chances a game, 3 open play chances a game, which is what you need to give someone like that. You need to, because even if he doesn't score them, there's situations where that ball's ricocheting off, keeper saving it, and then someone's getting a tap in, or he's coming off a defender and going in. So we need to feed him. But he's only played 1 90-minute game of football for Arsenal, so it's going to come.
I think Madueke and Eze will be ultimately the feeders in that sense. And you can see parts of that with Eberechi Eze. You know, he's prepared to get to the touchline and put a ball in the 6-yard area, and you know we've missed that because we haven't had a centre forward in that sense. You know, so we've got to bylines, but never fed anybody in that sense because there was no one to feed. But there is now, and we've got someone who is a bit more, I would say, probably a bit more direct. Of getting to a byline. So look, I think moving forward, I think look, the first 6 games of this season, you know, when the fixture list came out, it was, you know, most people were turning around saying it was a defining part of our season at the end of the day, those first 6 games in that sense from who we were playing. And it is defining, but it's defining. It would be defining for others just as much as ourselves, because look, we get a scrappy 1-0 win at Old Trafford, but we, you know, clean sheet, did what we had to, you know, we, you know, tore Leeds apart, which we should do as a newly promoted side anyway. You know, so we've had contrasts in matches. So it's kind of like we know what to expect now when we go to Liverpool. We're going to kind of expect in the hostile, you know, environment, like to a certain degree at an Old Trafford, and you're going to have to be at your best.
Yeah.
You know, particularly, you know, arguably defensively, yes, you're going to have to be at your best. You know, so I think it's going to be difficult. Yes, the next few games are defining, but not, I would say, more defining for others just as much as it is for us, because City doesn't want to necessarily play us at home after giving them a spanking the last time that they were at the Emirates. Do you know what I mean? So they're not necessarily looking forward to coming to us, and I don't think even with their squad is not even that improved.
Yeah.
Considering to what it was last season in that sense. So, you know, they're not looking forward to coming back to the Emirates as much as they want to try and have a revenge mission. Then you know, some of those players didn't play last season in that game, and I don't think the quality that they necessarily have brought in is necessarily that much better at this moment in time than what went there last season when we spanked them. So, you know, they're not looking forward. You know, the Newcastle game is always going to be. We know what that's going to be like. You know, and you know the game with Forest. Look, you know, they're always going to give us a game, but then, you know, that is the ones where you've got to just turn around and say, you know, those are the games we've got to win leagues.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that resumes obviously after the international break. So who knows how many more players Forest would have, or Edu would have signed at gunpoint by Marinakis, you know, by then. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of I saw a tweet where someone stitched a few tweets together from teams that support other teams in Europe, and they were like, you know, Barcelona fans, I think Atletico fans, and they were all saying we don't want PSG, we don't want Arsenal, because Arsenal, every set piece of Arsenal is like a penalty, and these guys will kill you at set pieces, man. You know, we'll have 90% possession, but these guys will just kill us. You know, so it's just great to see that they're just running scared of us. You know,
there's a fear. There is a fear factor now, in which that's what we've probably been craving for a number of years, to have that fear factor, and not just domestically, but in Europe, because that's you know, as much as I'd like us to win another league title, I would, you know, if I had the choice between a league title and a Champions League at this moment, I'll take the Champions League, because, you know, it's something that we're missing straight off. Okay. And it just shows where we are as a stature of a club now. You know, we're not the also rans that people keep thinking that we generally are. You know, we're great to look at, but we just don't get over the line. You know, so yeah, you know, look, the Champions League, obviously we have to kind of, you know, we put that to side to a certain degree at this moment in time, because we've got bigger fish to fry at the weekend. But, you know, I think when it comes down to it, look, we've got to go on all fronts. We've got to look at winning everything that we can ultimately achieve. And the squad that we have now can actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's still days to go. There still could be some more additions, which is insane to actually say, but that could actually happen. So fingers crossed. But no, Brian, it's been a great chat, man. Really, really appreciate your time on this. Is it Thursday? Today? Yeah, because I go back to work tomorrow stupidly after having a week off. Go back in for one day. But no, thanks very much, man, for joining me on this Thursday night. And thanks to everyone in the comments and watching. Really, really appreciate it. And fingers crossed we can get a good result, a statement result before we break up, before the international break, and then we can let the opposition and let all the content creators, all the rival fans stew on it for the next couple of weeks and think, this Arsenal team, are absolutely serious. And Nick is Arsenal Football Club is respected by top teams again. There's a disconnect from rival fans mocking and rival teams' actual assessment. Totally agree. You see it. You see some of the stuff on YouTube. Arsenal is scary, and this isn't fair, Arsenal. But and a lot of it is for clickbait to get engagements. But a lot of them are, genuinely, scared of us and what we've assembled, the squad we've assembled. And you got to tip the hat to KSE for backing Andrea Berta. You got to, respect to Berta what he's done. Just hope we can get a few bodies out the door. And you got to respect Arteta for actually taking this on board. And he seems happy. Every new arrival, he seems really happy about it. And penny's probably dropped now. That Miko, you need a squad. Yeah. You need to have as many as your best players available. Come the run-in, come the championship rounds of the season from March all the way through to the end, have as many of them available as possible, and it improves your chances of winning something. So hopefully he's
where we are now. You've got to look at each season that ultimately we're going to be playing 50, 55, 60 games in a season. And you can't do that on the basis of having just 18 players.
Basically, United. I think Man United could, end up, if they get knocked out of the FA Cup, they could end up playing 40 games a season. What a difference. It shows you how crazy things are.
One game
Steve,
a week.
mental, isn't it? Steve, obviously, he's due to join us tonight, but he missed it. He's arranging Anime Con with the kids, so he gets a red card. He'll get a fine as well for that as well. So thanks, Steve. No worries, man. And then as well as he said, great. Thanks very much for the kind words, Steve. He's wanting to talk about Eze a lot and on there tonight, but will be a massive upgrade to the squad, and the draw wasn't too bad. I'm happy with it. I think the fact that we've got two of those big ones at home is going to be good. Steve said he'd take the fine. Good stuff. Nice one. But no, thanks, Brian. Thanks to everyone watching. Really appreciate the support of the channel. And we're gonna be back with you hopefully Monday or Tuesday night, so we can reflect on the trip to Anfield and the results, and maybe the new maybe a couple of new players we may be able to talk about as well, and then obviously have a break for the international break before we come back, before maybe a preview for the Forest game. But thanks, Brian. Really appreciate your time tonight. Thanks everyone for watching. And come on, you Gunners, let's do this. Newcastle, the central figure again, and he looks to trick Michael.